very good evening to all of them present here. I hope I'm audible. You can give me a quick yes or a no on the chat, and that will be great. Let me just guide you here. Yeah, I hope all of you are able to see my message. Great. I already see a bunch of them saying hi, yes. All right, great. Good to see the participation already. Once again, good evening, everyone. We will be starting off shortly. We have our chief speaker, Mr. Joseph John, also here, and my co-partner, who will be taking care of the webinar a little later towards the end of the session. So please give us a little more time. We would like to wait for a few more people to join, and then we will go ahead. Thank you. Also, if you are facing any audio issues, I would recommend you try logging out and logging in. That should help to an extent. Thank you. All right, we will be starting out shortly. I see a few more people steadily joining in. It should go up a little more, so please hang in with us. Thank you. All right. Good evening, everyone. Once again, I hope I'm audible. A quick confirmation would be great so that I can go ahead. Uh, uh, Mr. Joseph and others, I hope I'm audible.
Yeah, Siddharth.
All right, great. So thank you all for the cooperation. We do expect the audience to go up a little more, but we do not want to drag it any further. So good evening, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank everyone for joining us for today's webinar organized by Web Solutions. I look forward to a wonderful session with all of you. I'd also like to thank our chief speaker, Mr. Joseph John, for joining us today. I am Siddharth, and I handle the product marketing at Web Solutions, and I will also be your moderator for the day. So before we move on to today's actual topic, I'd like to give a small briefing about the company before we head forward. Web Solutions is a 20-year-old company as of today. Web was initially known as Wipro e-Peripherals, which was part of Wipro itself. And in 2000, we became an independent entity. So from there on, we have multiple solution offerings, which I will show in the next slide. As you can see, we have managed print services, digital transformation solutions, and intelligent office automation solutions. All of this for the corporate end itself. So I'd like to give a very small briefing of each of these that you see on your screen. Once again, I hope I'm audible and I hope all of you are seeing this on the screen. So starting off with the first one, that is MPS, Managed Print Services. We have close to 600 plus odd customers over here, and we provide printing services. Now, the business here is such that we deal with printing hardware based on customer requirement, and the customer would be charged per print. Let alone, we also deal with asset management for the same. So this is what we do with web management services, and we are number one in India on this part. Secondly, we have in the RICO product sales and support, that is intelligent office automation solutions. We have the latest range of best-selling multifunction printers on offer. Now, Web is the authorized distributor alongside RICO, RICO Japan, to sell RICO products in the country. Moving on to the digital transformation side of solutions, that is serial number 3 and 4, you see GST and document management solutions. Let me cover up the GST part. As you can see, we actually hold the license called GSP, that is GST Suvidha Provider, from the government, and we are appointed by the GSTN itself. Here we have an all-in-one solution which covers your filing and reconciliation, your data preparation, validation, e-waybill automation, e-invoicing, ERP integration. We support all the ERP such as Oracle, SAP, Microsoft Dynamics, so on. We also have a standalone solution that is managed GST filing. The fourth one being document management solutions, or in short, document management system. Here we offer tailored custom solutions with the help of low-code development platform and workflow automation. Our solution is built on top of this. Underneath this, we have solutions for smart content collaboration, business process automation. We also have certain industry-specific solutions, which is fulfilled by the same. Employee records management, procure-to-pay process for the manufacturing and IT sectors. Management of change. This is more focused towards pharma and mostly pharma and chemical. So this is a quick introduction of our solutions that we have. Moving on, I would like to get into the topic itself. Let me introduce our chief speaker for today, Mr. Joseph John. Mr. Joseph John is a management consultant specializing in organization strategy, human resources management, and executive coaching. Joseph carries wide-ranging experience in the fields of management and consulting for over 3 decades. Since 2011, he provides consulting and advisory services in human resources strategy and organization development to clients in India for the last 10 years. He has also advised some of the global consulting firms as well as other Indian firms on organization strategies and compensation policies. From 1988 to 2011, Mr. Joseph John held various executive positions in various businesses and at the corporate office of Wipro Limited. His last role in Wipro was as the Vice President of Human Resources for India and the Middle East IT businesses. Prior to that, he was Vice President HR at Wipro Technologies, where he was responsible for talent engagement and development of over 20,000 employees around the globe. He has also worked with the consumer care business, biomedical business, and the corporate office as head of corporate HR and compensation and benefits for Wipro Corporation. He also held the position as head of recruitment for India and Asia Pacific business of Wipro. He has developed and practiced many innovative and successful talent strategies, policies, processes, compensation and benefit programs for global and India operations. He has been a panelist and speaker in HR forums in India and Singapore and a guest lecturer in management and engineering institutes. He's a blogger and also has written occasionally in business magazines and newspapers. In 2018, he has published a book of essays in human behavior called I Wonder Why: Perspectives on Human Behavior. It is an absolute pleasure to have you here with us today, sir. I'm sure the audience is looking forward to hearing directly from you. Also, to give you all a note, this is in fact our second webinar with Mr. Joseph John. We had a very successful webinar last month on the 18th of August. I'm sure I see a few of them who had attended last webinar also. So thank you all for cooperating. That is it from my end. I will hand it over to Mr. Joseph. On to you, sir.
Good evening, all of you, and thank you very much, Sidhu, for the very generous introduction. Move.
All right, so this is the agenda for today. We will have Mr. Joseph John talk about the HR challenges, post which there will be a quick demo of our solution. And heading on to the end of the session, we'll have an interactive QA session. So I will move the slide forward and yes, sir, you can take it forward from here.
Yeah. I think you all would know that, the topic today is very relevant. Most of you would be experiencing, so some of these things which we discussed today in your respective jobs. So I'm expecting that, you will be able to relate to what we are discussing today. And I'm also expecting that many of you would be able to contribute your own experiences and thoughts on the topic during the Q&A session. Now, to start the discussion, I would like to summarize, the emerging trends which is coming out of this pandemic-induced context. So a couple of slides, I'm focusing on the context, or rather the emerging trends in the corporate offices. Now, if we look at, so what's happening in most offices, I'm using the term offices to slightly, so exclude the the factory production kind of scenario, where the situation may not have changed significantly, because that requires physical presence of machinery and people. I'm talking and referring mostly to the office context and the staff who are working in the office context. So we know that suddenly the pandemic was upon us, and all the companies started so suddenly working from office or closing down some of their operations. And then eventually, so people also started getting bored in their own homes. And therefore, they started moving around and working from anywhere kind of thing. And some people have mix and match, because I know for sure there are many people who are living in Bangalore and working. They move to various places, maybe Goa, maybe some other hill station, and they work from there for a couple of weeks, and then they come back and all this kind of thing. So work has gone out of the office. So that is one thing. Then the other thing is that this kind of a flexibility that so you can work from anywhere kind of thing. So at the face of it, so that there's a great flexibility, so you can do whatever I want kind of this thing. But the fact is that most of the employees are stressed and stretched out in this kind of a flexible, which is kind of a paradox, which we will come to a little later. Now, it's also a fact that many companies, so by the somewhere around June 2000, many companies have accepted the new reality and started feeling that COVID is also good for the organization. So they started replacing some of their old practices with digital practices, and some level of innovation has happened in most companies. So therefore, the old models of management got disrupted. So when we used to study our management courses, there was this famous term called management by walking around. You walk around with the employees, meet people face to face, meeting every day. There's a stand-up meeting, sitting meeting. And it has also reached a situation where, so most of the corporate life was spent in meetings and conference halls. And we used to also talk about, the death by PPT kind of scenario. So all that has changed now. Sidhu, we can move. Continuing some of these, one important thing which I noticed, which many of you, I'm sure, would have noticed, is that, so now many of the companies now started, managing by trust. Earlier, so we used to manage people by directly controlling, directly meeting, and all these kind of things. So now it's mostly in managing by trust and managing for outcomes. That's more important. Where you work, do I meet you every day? All that thing is not really very relevant. Similarly, the technology has, come in terms of replacing a lot of manual work, particularly in the compliance area, where, so you eliminate the opportunities for non-compliance using smart technologies, and you reduce the time and effort required for supervision. Another important thing which has happened in many companies is also, what I call the white collar underemployment. A lot of companies used to have this kind of white collar underemployment, which simply means that, if you have a team of, let's say, 100 people, there are about 30 people who are not really contributing. So they are there, they are employed, they get their salaries, they come to the office, all that is happening, but there is an underemployment. Now, the new situation has actually forced many companies to cut down on this white collar underemployment. Companies no longer want too many people who are just messengers, just about aggregators. So I have a team of 10 people, I pick up and report what they have done, and I have nothing much to do. And significantly, the people who are slow in terms of learning new skills. Then, of course, so the hybrid model, which we are now familiar, is actually happening with every function of the office. So typically, earlier, sales used to happen, so by salespeople moving around, meeting people face to face, all that kind of this thing. So typically, the companies wanted to increase sales, will have to, increase the number of what they call feet on the street. Now all that has changed. Now the feet doesn't work too much, but the mind works better, and the technology is there to reach out to more people more quickly, and that has a significant change. Having said all these things, there will always be temptation to go back to the old model as the pandemic is waning. Now, this pressure may be coming from the mid-management, or to some extent from the senior management people who are not able to adapt to the new abnormal. So that is the general context. I just summarized a few of these things. There may be many other things which you can add, which for your response later. We can move. Okay, so now this is an interesting thing, if you look at, let's say, the findings of a recent LinkedIn survey, these are some of the findings. I'm not going to read out all these kind of things. So there is an element of burnout among a good number of employees. 7 out of 10 people think fully remote work will impact their career negatively. 55% of the people think less face time with bosses and peers impact professional learning, and all this kind of stuff. The significant thing is that 9 out of 10 professionals prefer a hybrid work. It's not that, so anybody wants to work only at home or in the office. So they want a judicious mix of these two things. Now, this is leading to a paradox, which Satya Nadella articulated. It is that the employees want flexibility. At the same time, they want to be connected with the rest of the organization and the rest of the world. So how do we provide flexibility to employees, at the same time give meaningful opportunities for connection with the rest of the organization? This is what is the great paradox. Now, resolving this paradox will lead to successful management of most of the organizations. We can move. Okay, so now there are 2 slides I'm presenting here. One is about, so what are some of the challenges which HR as a function is facing in the new context. I'm not listing out all the detailed, small items, but I'm just bucketing most of those in a few, critical points. You may be able to add and relate to more number of items in this later. It is very evident that the human interface is almost lost or so significantly reduced. So there was a time, or even now, you don't want to touch anyone, you don't want to get closer to anyone, and in effect what we are saying, that don't show me your face, and I will also hide my face. So we are all masked. The other point is that flexibility has a cost. Extreme flexibility to employees is actually making HR administration very, very hard. Let's say 30% of your employees want to work from office. Let's say 50% of employees want to work from home. Some of the employees want to work from home or office, a combination of this. Some employees are working from anywhere, kind of thing. Now, how do we manage all these things? This is giving us a significant challenge. It's not easy. The flexibility is a good thing for the beneficiary, for the employee. But the person who is administering this, managing the policy, managing the processes, and also, so keeping a certain standard in terms of HR delivery, it's a nightmare, to put it that way. The other point is that HR has become the first port of call. Now, a lot of things have happened during this pandemic. Suddenly, what happens is that whatever happens with employees, HR becomes responsible. Or people, managers come to HR. Whereas in the pre-COVID times, many of those issues used to be handled by the managers themselves. Now the managers are also working from various places, and they lost direct connectivity, and they don't have all that kind of control. So for everything related to employees, HR becomes the first port of call. The other thing is HR also has become very, very significant for most of the organizations, much more than what they were in the pre-COVID times. So it is no more, a function which is happening, which is, working with employees, some soft aspects of things, some compliance aspects. It's no more that. They are called in to involve in business outcomes right away. Because the way the work is happening, the work productivity, everything gets impacted because of all these kind of things. So HR is no more, so what we used to jokingly call, it's a wishy-washy, mushy kind of a function. It is no more like that. It is directly involved in business outcomes. Of course, the last point is about the mental health and stress. At least a portion of employees, may not be the majority, at least a significant minority of employees have undergone significant mental stress. And this includes even the HR people. I know for sure that so many of the HR people themselves were undergoing significant stress during this pandemic, and it is continuing. So these are some of the big challenges which HR is facing currently. Can move.
All right. So I hope all of you are actually getting some takeaways at the moment. I would like to cut short for just a while. Let me launch a few polls. I would like to get some interaction from our audience. I hope that's okay with you, Mr. Joseph.
Yes.
Okay. So the first poll, I hope all of you are seeing this on your screen. So what percentage of staff in your company do you think prefers work from home? Now, me being an employee, I definitely prefer work from home. but I do know that some of them still want that traditional, work from office environment. But yeah, that's fair enough. That's totally fair enough. Some of us just want to work from home, while the rest of us would like to go to office. And well, I'm not sure if you mentioned this already, Mr. Joseph, but yeah, most companies are actually offering that, partial work from home, work from office experience too. In fact, we are doing that. So Mondays and Tuesdays we go, while the other days we are at home. That's how it's working. All right. So above 50%. You're seeing this, right? You're able to see the tallying, I think. About 68% of them are saying above 50%, while the other 32 are saying below. So let me end this and share the results so that the rest of them are seeing this. Hope all of you are seeing this.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So would you like to comment on this, Mr. Joseph, or I can launch
Yeah,
the.
I'm happy that, so what I presented is reflected here.
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah. No, of course, the mix will change in different companies depending on the situation, but, so the reality is this. Yes.
Correct. Right.
Let's move
All
on.
right. So let me launch another poll. Okay. So do you think the COVID-19 pandemic has made the HR job more challenging than ever before? We'd like to know your inputs on this. Okay. So a whole bunch of them, the majority says that there is a serious challenge, definitely a challenge. All right. Also, while this is on, I'd like to mention that you can actually use the Q&A tab. I'm guessing you will be able to see it at the bottom of your screen. You can click that, and if there's any questions that you would like from the topic standpoint, you can simply put it on the Q&A app. So we will take it up towards the end of the session. And please do not use the chat. The chat is for mostly interaction purposes. All your questions will go there. Okay, let me end the poll. So let me share, but yeah, either way, it's evident that most of them are finding this as a challenge. Okay, all right. So you can go ahead, Mr. Joseph. I will launch the rest of the polls later.
Thank you. Okay. Now, this slide is about, one side is that, you have a whole lot of challenges, which is very, very evident. But that is, sorry, only one side of the picture. The other side of the picture is a lot more positive. It's also providing, like any other crisis, it's also providing us a lot of new opportunities for innovation, new ways of working, new ways of engaging with employees, a whole lot of kind of stuff. Like, the first thing is, the hybridization of HR delivery, which I alluded in my earlier context slides. So everything from hiring to separation is a hybrid kind of thing. In fact, some of the processes like, so hiring, recruitment, induction, all these have become completely online and digital. So some of the processes have become completely digital and the others have become mixed kind of this thing. I don't have to get into this thing because all the HR people would understand this. So there's an opportunity, so how do we, assuming that, let's say, the pandemic will be over in a few more months. Now, when we come back to, some kind of a normal scenario, do we go back to the old or do we, so look at new ways of, delivering the HR services? The second opportunity is, of course, on employee engagement. Most HR people would tell me that, it is the employee engagement which got significantly impacted during the COVID because, so there is no FaceTime, there is no connect, there is no teaming, all those kind of stuff. So it's a significant kind of challenge. But so if you turn around, it is also giving us a lot of cost-effective and time-effective ways of connecting with a lot of people in a different manner, which requires a lot more creativity, a lot more segmented employee engagement rather than the typical monthly birthday parties and all those kind of games. So it requires a lot more creativity, but it gives us a much better opportunity for a new way of engaging with employees. The third important thing is also it's an opportunity to recalibrate employee expectations. Now, all employees have gone through this phase in their life as well as in their career. So they understand that, so the old expectations, some of them will not work. So therefore, so we need to do certain, interventions in terms of shaping the employee expectations in the new context. Challenge the basis of most of the practices, and then you will find ways of, new way of communicating with employees and new methods of resetting the employee expectations. The next agenda is in terms of redefining employment terms. This is a little more fundamental kind of a thing, which is not easy, but at the same time, which will be an imperative in most companies. For example, let's say, providing career progression to all employees. Is that the responsibility of the organization? It's a question. I'm not making a statement that this is or this is not. Or providing learning opportunities and career choices, definitely critical, but how do we do that now in the new context? So all these needs to be, redefined. Now, the last thing is about, so data-based and more informed decisions. So more measurements are required, more data analysis is required, and there needs to be a lot more transparency of the decisions. Why we are doing something, the employees should know. And there should be a lot more conviction in the management as well as with the HR as to why we are taking a decision. So these are some of the broad areas of opportunities for HR in the new context. Can move. Okay, so this is an interesting quote which I thought, so it is reflecting the context here. What Dalai Lama has said: know the rules well so you can break them effectively. So, in effect, so some of these things which we were discussing is pointing to this. We need to, fundamentally ask questions about the context, about the policies, and then effectively break, restructure, reshape some of these things. This is not easy, but so different companies are doing it in their own ways in different manner. So each company will have its own priorities, its own cultural context, based on that, so you can do what is relevant. But it is imperative that, so you revisit all these assumptions and, come up with some new stuff without really throwing away the fundamental cultural aspects of the organization and the basic business objectives. Can move. Okay, now this is not an exclusive list of things which companies have done, but so I have been in touch with some of my colleagues and friends. I am just picking up a few of the changes which they have done during these last few months. Now, one company has scrapped pre-employment medical exam completely. Um, Now, you can ask whether it is right or wrong, but the fact is that, so if you hire 100 people and in 99.9% of the cases, the results are positive, then, then you are setting up a rule or a process for maybe 0.01% of the population, which may be irrelevant. It is better to handle that as an exception rather than setting a rule. Similarly, so one company has scrapped probation completely. So most companies, I'm talking about the office context regarding the white collar people particularly. The probation, so you join as a new executive and you have a probation for 6 months or 1 year. Here again, so 99% of the people, unless, somebody is, getting into an ethical issue or a significant performance issue, people get confirmed and then they move on with life. So therefore, why do you need this? Anyway, every company has got regular performance evaluation process, and contractually, so you can separate. The company has the right to separate an employee. The employee has the right to leave the company. So why do we need all these things? So there's one company has done. I'm not saying that you all should do this, but I'm citing some examples to ignite some thoughts. The other thing is simpler leave policies. So many companies have actually moved away from multiple types of leaves and those kind of things. So the administration is very easy. So you have only one set of leaves. You have 24 days leave or whatever it is, number of days of leave during the year. And some companies also have done away with the accumulation carry forward facilities. You have a certain number of days of leave, you avail the leave rather than, converting that as your saving or all those kind of things. There are some other changes. Then some companies have also got into a practice that there will not be any office calls after 8 p.m. I'm just giving an example of one company. It could be differently. So it may be worthwhile that, so every company adopts some norm like this. There could be exceptional emergencies. But otherwise, so we still need to respect the personal time of employees. So then the other thing is the quality of HR service delivery. Traditionally, HR has been counting on the events and activities they used to do rather than the quality of HR service. What you provide and how the employees are feeling, what is the experience they are getting from the event is more important. Companies started measuring those kind of stuff. The last thing is, companies also started communicating more and communicating more proactively, so that you reach out to the employee much ahead of the gossip mill. Now there used to be a joke that so before an employee gets promoted, so the news will spread all around the company in the form of gossip. And then the manager wanted to communicate it differently. He said that anyway, everybody knows about this thing. So he sent a message saying that this is to confirm the gossip that so-and-so is getting promoted. So that is to put things lightly. But, so more significantly, so what's happening with the company at all levels, so we need to communicate with the employees on time, before time, rather than they getting to know about these changes from gossip or from the media. So these are some of the things. Now you can reflect, so what would you like to do in your company? Some of these things. So maybe you can share some of your thoughts when we come during the discussion stage later in the presentation. Thank you very much. Hand it over to Sid.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Joseph. That was very insightful, in fact. So we are actually getting into the second part of the webinar where we will be doing a quick demo of what we have on offer. So before that, I would like to launch maybe one more poll that is a little more aligned to this slide. Let me know if all of you are seeing this. Has your company adapted well to the COVID-19 challenges? Let us know your thoughts. I'm sure it may not be absolutely accurate. It does not have to. So let me leave this on for the next 1 minute. Also, I did see one question on the Q&A tab. So that is noted. So what we'll be doing is we will be taking this up towards the end of the session. So any further questions, please put it on the same tab. Once again, thank you all for joining. So you can actually put all your questions on the Q&A tab. We do have a few open-ended questions as well towards the end of the session. All right, I will be ending the poll right now. So it looks like most of them are agreeing to the fact that the companies indeed have adapted well to the COVID-19 challenges. All right, glad to know. I will be stopping the sharing right now. So moving on, I would like to introduce my colleague who will be taking over, Mr. Adarsh Singh, who has been our webinar expert, has been our webinar demo expert, in fact. So he will be driving the demo part of the webinar from here on. Adarsh has indeed been working with us for the last 1.5 years and has done close to 50 webinars. He will be taking over from here on. Adarsh, over to you.
Yeah. So good evening, everyone. This is Adarsh, and thanks for the introduction, Siddharth. So yeah, my part starts with HR challenges. So far, Mr. Josephson has contributed well how COVID-19 pandemic has affected HR professionals, not only on their professional part, but on their mental health part as well. But taking aside the COVID-19, there are certain challenges which HR professionals deal on a regular basis. They are not occasional. They have to be taken care of. Like, first of all, is the major challenge of tracking of employee documents. So let's assume a scenario where a candidate is newly joining the company, but there is a high chance he may not have all the documents available at the very moment. So how do we track that? Or there could be concerns on possible data breach as well. Whenever documents are only shared in a physical format, there may be chances of people handling it without permission, or when people can hamper with them, right? Then comes securely sharing employee data with auditors or background verification team. So currently HR may be sharing it through emails or drive links, but they have or they can lose control of what they are sharing and how it being used by the other party. So in those scenarios, a secured platform is one the HR professionals should look at. And the last and the still not the least part is the searching and retrieval of employee documents. So even if you have stored it online or offline, whenever an employee or a member of the company is requiring these documents, there may be chance HR can lose track of all the employee folders. There could be scenarios where there are hundreds and thousands of employee folders, and you have to search each and every folder without a mechanism to search and retrieve these employee documents. It is really difficult to get the exact documents it's searching for. So in my demo session, I'll be covering all the issues, how you can tackle each of these issues, like tracking of employee documents or concern on possible data breach or sharing these documents or even searching and retrieval. So this all process I would be taking care of. And even I'll be showcasing you a demo on the candidate onboarding process. So at Web, we have a business process automation system which can handle your manual efforts. It can reduce it up to an extent where you can automate your processes and be more effective in your work. So this candidate onboarding process flow will help you to send out offer letters to candidate, get their responses, be it their data about their personal details or their ID proofs, employment certificates, previous employment letters. Then you can review it automatically. It will be stored into the document repository. So this all will be taken care by the business process automation system at DMS. So yeah, with that, I'd like to share my screen as well so that I can show you the platform demo. So Siddharth, if you can unshare, I'll share my screen. So I hope you are seeing my screen. Anyone can give me a yes.
Yeah. So Adarsh, I can see it. I hope the
Okay.
rest of them are
Okay.
also seeing it.
So I'll start with the introduction about the DMS platform itself. It is a cloud-based application. We do have implementations of on-premise as well, but a cloud-based application is still preferred by most of the individuals since we are moving into the COVID pandemic situation. We are moving out of it, but it is a hybrid work situation. It is better to be adapted to a situation where you can still fetch your records easily without a remote desktop connection. So cloud-based application help you in that. So now coming on to the onboarding process, the business process automation section of the web DMS platform works in the workflow part. So here, the workflows which are assigned to you will be listed out in the workflow tab. Suppose I'll be showing you the candidate onboarding process. It is just not limited to that. We have a designer section where you can design endless workflows right from onboarding to offboarding of candidate. So I'll be showcasing you just one part of it, that is candidate onboarding. So as I gave you the earlier example that whenever a candidate is joining to the company, he may not have a dedicated login which the company uses for most of their employees. So to get the details from that particular candidate, we need to send it on their email address. So here I'll be sending it. Suppose Ashish, and we want to send him a offer letter. He is a new candidate and we want him to onboard to the company. So we are sending him an offer letter to his personal email address. So without a login to the DMS form, the candidate can still give in his response. So I'll submit this particular task from the HR end. And now I'll open the Gmail account of that particular candidate. So just a brief refresh and the task should come up. Here you can see the task has come up for offer letter employee details. We can open the link. Yeah. So Ashish Thakur, the offer letter is there in the document section. I can see. And the requested detail from the employer side, suppose his Aadhaar card number, PAN card number, a copy of Aadhaar card. We can add that. And this form is all customizable. So whatever details the HR require at the time of onboarding from the candidate, we can have that. We can have that in the form. And it is pretty easy for the candidate to just upload this document as and when required. So I'm attaching all the requested details as degree certificate, photo, previous employment certificate. And the last question, whether I accept the offer letter or not. So I say, yes, I accept it, and I'll complete my task. So now I have completed my task. I'll close the Gmail account as well. And here in the task section, right now there's no task, but as soon as I refresh it, there's an offer letter review task pending at the HR's end. So the HR here can view the details the candidate has filled along with the documents that he has given. So all can be verified by the HR, and the HR can give employee number if she wishes to, like 70223, and location say Bangalore. If there are any pending documents, then we can say yes, there are pending documents, you need to submit these documents. Otherwise we can say no, and we can complete our task. So this becomes easier for the HR to just review it, and now the storage part of these documents becomes automatic. We can track these documents using the project section. The documents get stored, or via this report. Say this particular report employee, we just have to type in the employee ID and we click on view. And here we can see all the employee codes, their designation, their name, when did they join to the company, their grade, their location, the process, the status of that particular employee, how many documents are available for that particular employee in the DMS repository. We can have a count of that automatically, and we can have a total number. If the total is less than the required number of documents, the system will automatically trigger notification to these candidates and to the HR that you have some pending documents and you need to submit those documents. So that can be automated as well. And now to show you the storage part of this particular employee onboarding process. So here we have the project section, we have the employee records, which are the active employees, and the separated employees as well. So here I select Bangalore location and 70223 employee. So in this way, automatically the segregation also happens, like educational certificate, employment document, ID proofs. And I can see all the documents are available for me to use. If I go into the details section, there's also metadata tagging available. Meta class is employee records management. We have the employee number, the employee name as we typed in earlier, the employee email address, his Aadhaar card number, PAN card number, his branch location, all gets recorded in the DMS system along with their metadata. So why this metadata is important? Because see, if you want to search and retrieve these documents, it becomes easier to search it via the employee number. Suppose 70223 was the employee number, and I just search it. See, all the documents for this particular employee is visible to me, and I can just use this link to access that particular document over here. And the sharing of these documents is also pretty easy. Just click on the shareable link. You can control what you are sharing over here. This link can be accessed by people from public domain or people within the company domain, that you can control which version of the file you want to share. If you have done any annotation on the file, you can keep those annotation hidden. You can give them viewing access, or you can give them editing access as well. There's a downloadable option present, but you can switch it off by unchecking this option, and now this will be a view only file. So this becomes issue whenever we are sharing with any other party, that we don't want them to download this particular document, then we can use that particular option, and we can even put an expiry on this particular link. So link expiry is also one option that is available. So yeah, that ends the demo part of the DMS platform. Now to show you the partner space, we have one partner space as well, where you can share your documents with your background verification team or auditing teams. So we have another login, which is a bit different from the DMS login that we have. seen over here. Here you have limited access, like you only have the My Messages, the partner space, and the workflow section if you are part of any workflows with that particular organization. And you have your partner space over here. Like I'm from the background verification team, then I will have access only to the BGV reports, which the company is sharing with me. So here is the background verification documents. I have view and download access over it. And here I have the BGV reports where I have only view and upload access. So in this way, we can have a dedicated system with our background verification team or auditing team. And a dashboard is also available where we can see the recent activities which the background verification team or the auditing team is performing. So it becomes a secure channel for us to safely share our employee documents with the partner users. So yeah, that ends the demo part of today's session. And over to you, Siddharth. You can launch your poll regarding the demo.
All right. So thank you, Adarsh. Team, I hope you were able to take something from the demo itself. Now, the thing is, since we are on a time constraint, we cannot completely show a detailed demo of the platform. But let me launch a poll. All of you are seeing this. So as I was mentioning, I know we cannot show a complete demo, but would you be interested to see a more detailed demo of the solution? Our team would actually be able to reach out to you probably in the next 1 week, and we can actually show a more detailed demo of the platform for free. There are no charges involved, anything as such. So that way, it will be a more one-to-one interactive session. And any questions that you have for Mr. Adarsh, he will take it up one-on-one. Provided there will also be a demo of what you just saw, but it will be a lot more in detail. I will leave this on for the next few seconds. Also, we will be taking up a few questions that had come up. If there are any further questions related to the solution, or if you have questions for Mr. Joseph in terms of the domain, the topic that we covered today, that is HR challenges, you can simply use the Q&A tab. All right, so I will be ending the poll right now. Thank you for your inputs. Okay, so this brings us to more or less the end of the webinar itself. Let me just share my screen and you'll have the screen on. So we will be taking up the questions that have come up so far. We have a few of them. Let us take up the question that has come from Ms. Sanchita Das. So Mr. Joseph, I hope you're seeing this on your screen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the question on how do we do the engagement activities with employees who are permanently on remote working. It's a very interesting question. Now, my answer to this is, so one has to go back to the fundamentals. What is the purpose of employee engagement? Or what really determines or makes an employee more engaged with the organization? So in my view, the fundamentals are remaining the same, whether somebody is remote or somebody is working in the office. Like, so number one, so if I need to be engaged with the organization, I need to be doing a meaningful work. That's number one. So is my work meaningful? Is my contribution valued in the company? Is number one. Number two is that, so I join a company to build a career in some area or other. So therefore, am I able to improve, upgrade my skills and learning? Third is, so when I have a personal challenge, is there a help coming from the company? Fourth is, let's say, so whether I am a remote worker or I'm working from office, I need to be connected with my team and with my manager. So like earlier, so we used to have maybe a weekly meeting, a stand-up meeting, whatever it is. can we have a meeting even now on a weekly basis, or let's say one-on-one with an employee? So at some frequency, maybe once in a month, maybe once in 2 weeks, all these kind of thing. And finally, so let's say, so is my work recognized? If I do something well, I get recognized. And if I don't do well, do I get timely feedback? These are some of the fundamental kind of stuff. Once you ask these questions, and if you find a relevant set of things to be done with an employee, then you decide how to deliver. So online, in a face-to-face meeting, whether much of this has to be done by the manager himself or HR needs to be involved in some of these things. How much of this can be personalized? Can we do a survey with these employees as to what are the top 3 things which they want when they're working remote? Do they have the necessary facilities to work remotely? All these are important, so when you address all these things, you will find ways of handling this, and employee will be engaged. So fundamentally, what I am saying is that the basis of employee engagement is not changing, regardless of somebody is working remote or somebody is working from office. But the delivery changes, and that is the challenge which HR has to take. I hope I was able to explain to some extent.
All right. Ms. Sanchita, I hope that answers your question. Okay. So we can actually wait for another few minutes for a few more questions. I hope that's okay with you, Mr. Joseph. So what we can do
Yeah,
in
I'm
the
fine.
all right. So what we can do in the meantime is I would like to launch one open-ended question. Now, for the participants, you can simply use the chat. You do not have to use the Q&A now. Since you're not asking a question, you're more or less going to answer. So I will drop it right now. I hope you're seeing this. What are a few examples of changes in HR practices in your company? Now, we'd like to know your thought process on this. So those of you who are interested can simply put down your points on the chat itself. Okay. So looks like there is one unattended question from Ms. Swati Preman. I'm not sure if you answered this, sir. How to reduce gossip and how to motivate employees to complete the task? This question had come up, so I'm not sure if this was answered. I mean, pardon me if I missed this.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. My response is that, so don't cut down on all the gossip. Some bit of gossip is required, and it is healthy in any organization. So we all were in the college. So in the college, we always talk something or other about our professor or whatever it is. So what all things we talk? Or, so this is not happening well, or that will happen, that's fine. But the point is that, so we should not allow this gossip to go to an extent where it is getting negative with the employees. For that, so you need to have a counter strategy of communicating positive aspects of the company. For example, so you should also sense, so what's happening in different teams through the managers. If HR is really engaged with the middle managers who are actually dealing with the employees on a daily basis, you will be able to sense what are some of these top of the mind gossips. Some of them may be very innocuous kind of thing. Some of them may be symptoms of some serious issues. Then you need to address. So that's the point. So the short answer is that don't try to cut down all the gossip. Gossips are natural. To some extent, it is healthy. Second is that don't allow the gossips to get into a negative spiral. So communicate well, communicate on time. So and engage with the managers so that so you get to know both things on time. So that's my response. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Swati, I hope that answers your question. Okay, so we did get a few inputs from Ms. Swapna on the open-ended question that we put up. What are a few examples of uh, changes in HR practices in your company? So she's mentioned leave structure and shift flexibility. Okay. Any other inputs from the rest of them who are still here? I can also put up another question. Let me drop the next question. What are some of the significant challenges HR is facing in your company? Now, I believe most of the audience here today are HR based. So maybe one or two challenges that you are facing from your personal point of view as a HR would be great. We'd like to see that over here. Also, I'd like to mention that post this webinar, our team will be reaching out to you over the next few days, in the next 2 to 3 working days, or the next week for any specific queries, anything related to the demo that you have. I'd also like to mention that Mr. Joseph John will also be happy to take up any specific inquiries that you have over mail. Okay. Hiring part and performance appraisal. So looks like that is one of the challenges that she is facing. All right. Mr. Joseph, would you like to comment on this part, the hiring
Yeah,
part?
the hiring part, there are two aspects to it. One is the process transaction aspect of it, which I'm sure, the companies like Web Solutions can help in terms of process management, digitization kind of thing. The other aspect is, for example, now, so most of the tech companies are actually facing a significant challenge in terms of attrition and difficulty in hiring the critical talent. So that is a different challenge altogether. So for that, so you need to augment your hiring capability, either in terms of the team capability or in terms of your own search capability or in terms of engaging with the right kind of partners for hiring. And more importantly, to reduce the need for hiring, because so bulk of the hiring is replacement hiring. So if you can improve your retention, the load on hiring itself will come down. So this is what I can make a comment as in general. Now coming to performance appraisal, yes, performance appraisal is a lot more challenging now in the context of this thing. So now, what I can tell you, there are two things. One, I have indicated in my presentation that, so companies need to be more focused on outcomes, not the process and methods. So if your, let's say, the KRAs are outcome focused, then the performance measurement and evaluation will become easier. So go back to your KRAs of employees and then see, how many of these are outcome based and are these outcomes measurable, either in terms of number or outputs or in terms of milestones. So if you have that, and then there is also a digital way of getting these things recorded on a weekly or a monthly basis, then it won't be a difficult task in terms of collating this on a quarterly or annual basis. So that is my recommendation for making the performance management more effective. Thank you.
All right, great. So I hope that gave some insight for Ms. Swati. Hope that answers your question. In fact, there's also another input from Ms. Swapna: performance review and exit interview. All
Yeah,
right.
the performance review we already discussed. Exit interview, there are multiple aspects. One is that, every company does an exit interview in some form or other. Some companies do it completely online. Some companies do it on a face-to-face, or, somebody from HR or somebody talks to an employee and then gets input. So my suggestion is that you can do both ways. But the point is that how do you get relevant exit inputs? Because what happens is that there are two types of employees. One type of employees, they don't really talk negative anything. So they will say that, oh, everything was fine and all those kind of, because they know that, they have to keep some good relationship. Why burn the bridges? So therefore you will not get the true assessment. The other set of the people, they may have some significant grievance either with the manager or with some job or whatever it is. So they will harp on that, and because of that, they will find a lot more negatives about this thing. So how do you get a balanced input on this? There are two recommendations I have. Number one recommendation is that don't wait for an employee's separation to get feedback from employees. Get feedback periodically from employees through the manager or through surveys or other means. That's number one. Second, so if HR is seen as a third party and not really involved with that employee, don't make all HR or exit interviews done by HR. Based on the criticality level of the employee, you decide who should take the exit interview. Maybe a good line manager may be a better option. Maybe the employee might open up a little more with the line manager. So make those kind of changes so that you get relevant input from the exiting employees and the exit interview becomes more meaningful. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Joseph. So we've actually gone past the time limit. So I would like to actually bring it to an end over here. So once again, thank you all for attending. Thank you all for making time this evening and attending our webinar. Big special thanks to Mr. Joseph for putting the efforts and bringing out such a wonderful presentation for our audience here. It was indeed insightful, and I do believe our audience did have takeaways from this. Thank you so much, Mr. Joseph, and thank you, others. Thank you for the demo. So once again, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. So like I'd mentioned, we will be reaching out in the next few working days. And just wanted to mention, as you exit this webinar, there will be a quick 10-second survey form, which will be redirected to your browser. Please take about 5 to 10 seconds to answer that. It would really be helpful for us. Thank you. So on that note, I would like to end the session for today. We'll also be sending the recording to you on our post-webinar reach out. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sidhu. Thank you, Adarsh. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you all and have a wonderful evening. Bye.
Thank you.